The first time Jenna saw Earth, she almost felt her disgust bleed into her very bones. The sight of the dirty blue planet from space filled her with repulsion. It wasn't just the dirt and pollution that scarred the surface. It was the scent of the place that seeped into the airwaves even from orbit. It was harsh, like burning oil, mixed with the tang of decay and sweat. Jenna was an elite warrior from the Alverian colonies, a proud and noble race with a history spanning thousands of years, with technology and wisdom far surpassing Earth's fragile grasp on the cosmos. She had come as part of a diplomatic mission to negotiate a peace agreement. However, the moment she stepped foot on Earth, she realized that there was no peace to be found here. Humanity had no concept of peace, no idea of civilization beyond greed, war, and pollution. She looked down at the dense cities from her sleek shuttle, distaste curling her lip. The mission had already gone awry before it had even begun, and now she was stuck on this wretched rock of a planet until things resolved. Days turned into weeks as Jenna and the Earth leaders exchanged talks and strategies. She kept her eyes on the prize, the moment when she could return to her home, the moment when she could leave the stench of this place behind. She barely spoke to the humans unless necessary, staying detached and cold, her mind distant from anything they said. Their constant noise, their short-lived attention spans, their obsession with resources, they were beneath her. It was then that disaster struck. A rogue faction, a band of militant extremists from Earth's military, took matters into their own hands and launched an unprovoked attack against a neighboring world in a nearby system. They believed they could steal advanced technology from the peaceful civilization and use it for their own advantage. This sudden act of aggression drew the attention of the High Council of the Galaxy, who immediately declared war on Earth. Jenna was torn from her comfortable disdain and thrust into the center of the conflict. The galaxy was vast, and there were powerful forces arrayed against Earth. Jenna knew that Earth could not stand against them. Too unorganized, too immature in their methods. But the higher-ups on the High Council were not willing to waste the resources to destroy the planet, and thus, they decided to send emissaries to the surface to negotiate the human surrender. But when Jenna and the other diplomats arrived, there was no sign of the expected negotiations. Instead, there was chaos. Cities burned. Governments collapsed. It wasn't just a war. It was a complete breakdown of society. Jenna was forced to fight to survive. The once proud warrior now found herself in a shattered world, her hatred for Earth growing stronger by the hour. Every step she took on the war-torn planet reminded her of why she had hated it in the first place. The filth, the decay, the violence, it all piled onto her growing bitterness. She wasn't supposed to fight these battles. Her mission was to ensure that Earth's leaders submitted peacefully, but now she had to take matters into her own hands. As Jenna made her way through the streets of a ruined city, her thoughts were interrupted by an explosion that shook the ground beneath her feet. She instinctively ducked behind a pile of rubble, pulling up her energy shield. She had trained for battle in distant corners of the galaxy, facing off against foes much stronger and more skilled than the pathetic humans. But now, in the midst of this alien world, her mind was sharp and focused. Suddenly, there was a voice shouting from across the battlefield. "Hey, are you okay?" She blinked, surprised to hear a human voice. She raised her weapon, preparing for another attack. But then, through the smoke and dust, a figure emerged, dusty, bleeding, and wearing tattered military armor. A human soldier, but not just any soldier. This man was different. He was covered in wounds, yet he moved with the precise coordination of a warrior. His stance was strong, and his eyes locked with hers, calm and focused, despite the carnage surrounding them. He didn't hesitate. The soldier charged toward her, weapon raised. Yet his intent was not hostile. Instead, it was something else. He reached out a hand toward her, offering her assistance. "You're not alone here. Let me help you." Jenna recoiled at the gesture, confused by the audacity of this human. Was he insane? How could he offer his help to someone like her? Someone who had no care for Earth, its inhabitants, or its future. "Why would you help me?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "You're the ones who started this mess. Your kind is responsible for everything." The soldier's face remained steady, despite the barrage of hatred in her words. "We've all made mistakes," he said, his voice rough but determined. "But right now, there's only one thing that matters. If we don't work together, neither of us will survive." Jenna hesitated. She had been trained to see humans as inferior, fragile creatures with no hope of surviving in the universe. Yet, as she looked at this soldier, she saw something different in his eyes. There was a resilience, a tenacity that she had never seen before. A strength forged not in the fires of battle, but in the heart. "You think I need your help?" Jenna scoffed. "I've fought in battles across the galaxy. I've faced creatures far more dangerous than anything you could imagine." The soldier nodded, unfazed. "I don't think you need my help, but I know that you can help. You're not like the others. You're different." Jenna stared at him. His words unsettled her. Was it possible that this human truly understood her? Her anger, her fear, her longing to escape this forsaken place? It was true. She had fought across many worlds, but none like this one. None where the people were so desperate, so shattered. None where there was this kind of raw, untamed will to survive. Reluctantly, she lowered her weapon. The soldier, without a word, extended his hand again. And for the first time since her arrival on Earth, Jenna found herself reaching out, grasping his arm. Together, they fought side by side. Through the wreckage of cities and the echoes of war, Jenna saw what the soldier meant. The humans, despite their flaws, were not so different from her. They fought not for dominance or glory, but for survival, for hope. Even in the face of certain destruction, they never gave up. And though Jenna hated Earth with every fiber of her being, she could not deny the fire in the hearts of its people. By the time the final battle drew to a close, Jenna stood atop the rubble of a ruined city. Beside her, the soldier, the one human who had proven that Earth was not entirely hopeless, stood strong. He had saved her more times than she could count. He had shown her that, perhaps, there was something worth saving on this forsaken planet. As the dust settled and the sounds of war faded, Jenna knew that her perception of Earth had irrevocably changed. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't even close. But it was alive, and there was beauty in that. "You're not like the others," Jenna said softly, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 grudges. "You're something more?" The soldier only smiled, his face worn, but his spirit unbroken. "We all are," he said, his gaze looking toward the horizon, toward the future. For the first time since her arrival, Jenna felt a glimmer of hope. Earth was a flawed world, but perhaps, just perhaps, it had the potential to rise above its past. And maybe, just maybe, she could be a part of that future. And when the High Council came to question her actions, Jenna would be ready to speak. She would speak not as an emissary, not as an elite warrior, but as someone who had finally seen the potential of Earth through the eyes of one human soldier who had dared to stand tall against the storm.